Thank you, Brand Innovators, for having me and having us. I'm really excited to moderate this with Charae. Just a little quick background about me. I'm the VP of Marketing at Gimbal. If you are not familiar with Gimbal, which I'm sure many of you are not, we are a location intelligence company that helps brands enable location-based functionality within their mobile apps. We're really focused on the retail, grocery, and specifically QSR and fast casual around curbside pickup, and a lot of that functionality makes this whole new world we're living in more frictionless for brands and their consumers. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Charae. Charae, if you want to give a little background about yourself, past work experience, and what led you to where you are now.
So hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. And Brand Innovators, again, thank you for having us. My name is Charae Carter-Jenkins. I am the head of marketing for And Pizza currently, and I've been here for almost 2 years. A little bit of history about how I got here in the first place. I studied law and society at American University. The plan was to become a sports agent. Just bear with me while we get to how we get into marketing from there. But the plan was to become a sports agent. During junior year of college, had applied to all kinds of different departments with the Washington Wizards, and the marketing department was the department that accepted me for an internship. At this point, I'd probably taken like maybe 2 marketing classes in college. When I graduated, the Wizards had an entry-level position open in their marketing department as an assistant. So I went there. I was there for 3 years. Amazing time. Had a lot of freedom and responsibility for a 22-year-old for an NBA team, no less. But from there, I went on to work for a couple of nonprofits, including the Newspaper Association of America and the Association of Governing Boards of Universities and Colleges. I've also worked in the commercial real estate space, being the marketing director for 2 outdoor shopping centers here in the Washington, D.C. area. And then I spent almost 5 years at Chipotle Mexican Grill, a restaurant you may or may not have heard of before, where I started as a sub-regional marketing team member, and then ultimately went on to head up the field marketing team with another young lady. That's my most recent experience prior to joining And Pizza. Like I said, I joined there April 2019, and I'm along for the ride.
Love that. I love the background story. I feel like none of us really go to college and then studied, but it's all worth it.
Totally.
So what's the background behind the company name and ampersand pizza and the tagline, the future of pizza? What does that mean?
So the background behind the company name And Pizza, I know for a lot of people who aren't here locally, it's like And Pizza, they get the name a little bit confused. But if you think about it, everyone loves pizza, right? For the most part, everybody loves pizza. And the ampersand, what comes before it could be anything. Pizza is just the tool that we use to connect with people. It's the tool that we use to get into people's communities, to make a difference in people's communities, to make a difference in people's lives. It could be Charae and pizza because I had a bad day at work today. And so now I'm going to work and I'm coming to my favorite pizza spot and I'm connecting with myself. Or it could be Liz and Charae and pizza. And, you and I haven't seen each other in a long time. And this is our first time getting together and sitting down and having, our little girl session. Or it can be, any community organization and pizza. It's just our way to, literally have a seat at the table, sit down, talk with you, get into your community, get into what, you're about, find out more about you, and hopefully somehow make an impact and a difference in people's lives. And to answer your second question, the future of pizza, we're the future of pizza. Everything from the shape of our pies to like the shape of our boxes, which for those of you who don't know, they're come in long rectangular boxes and the pies look like a skateboard almost. And from, all of the technology that we've been integrating in the past, more so now, a lot more so since COVID as well. There's just a lot of things that we're doing at a technology level that I don't think a lot of other companies are doing. And especially for like a company of our size, it's pretty impressive. So we can get into more of that later, as we talk about the app and all of those kinds of things, but we're the future of pizza.
I love it. And I love the inclusivity aspect behind that, that it's just this welcome community and it could be anything.
Right, totally.
I love that. And so I feel like we've all heard enough about the pandemic, but it's fascinating to hear about the agility of brands. I mean, you guys are a startup, and how they've, yourself specifically and the company, had to shift a lot of what you had planned for pre-pandemic. So my question is, what was the impact of the pandemic when it first hit for you guys? Specifically, like how did it affect your marketing plans?
Oh, it totally blew up our marketing plans because a lot of what we had planned to do in 2020, there was a lot of walk the line promotions, a lot of promotions that, people would have to be in shop for. So all of that, of course, goes, by the wayside. But we were able to pivot. An example I can give you is, our fundraiser program. So we offer fundraisers, which if you're an organization who wants to host a fundraiser with us, you, at the time, you would come into the shop, you'd show your flyer, or, say, I'm here for, the local football team fundraiser, and we would donate 50% of proceeds back to the organization. Well, prior to the pandemic, let's call it November 2019, we had silently started just really like grassroots promoting these with different colleges in the area. We had started off maybe with like, call it 3 in November 2019. And by March of 2020, we had over 30 fundraisers lined up. Like, we had grown that rapidly with the fundraisers in that short amount of time. And as you could probably imagine, March of 2020, what starts happening? Fundraisers start getting canceled left and right. So we quickly had to figure out, okay, how do we have the capability to do this online? And we do, just because of all the infrastructure and everything that we had. So we could execute the same exact promotion, but with a promo code. So now, instead of, having to physically be in the shop, all you have to do is you can submit your order online or through our app, include that promo code at the end, and then we'll make sure that those sales get counted towards, your fundraiser. So it, it was a definite, that's a small example of how we definitely had to shift our strategy, but at the same time opened up new capabilities for us, because now, as the world starts to slowly open up again and everything, we have the capability to run our fundraisers both ways. Hopefully then, being able to support organizations more, because maybe they couldn't make it, in shop that day, but they can place an order online if they're at work or something like that, so that they can, participate in the fundraiser as well.
That's incredible. And I'm sure you guys have future plans to re-implement that in other ways, which we can expand on a little bit later. But you talked about technology, and SMS messaging, specifically B2C, has blown up over the past year. I read a stat from eMarketer that there was an 8.5% and 20% growth in SMS marketing messages in March and April 2020, respectively, compared with February. Can you talk about your SMS strategy and then compare it to your mobile app strategy?
Right. So our SMS we've always been very SMS heavy. That's how we communicate, not only with our customers, but, we communicate with our internal employees the same way. Anything from when the pandemic first started, sending out daily memes just to try to put a smile on people's faces, to, putting out surveys to find out what, do our employees care the most about, because that's just how people talk to one another these days, is via text. So that's something that is, we rely heavily upon at our company. The way that our strategy has shifted recently, we're starting to dabble more into the different journeys. And so putting different customers on different journeys as you join us along the way. So, you might be the customer who came to one of our new shop openings, but you only visited that first day and you haven't been back since. So we want to speak to you differently than the customer who transacts with us every 4 to 6 weeks, which is a regular customer for us. We also want to speak to you differently than, a customer who might have had a negative experience. And we know about that because we've sent you a survey and you've let us know about that. Just making sure that we are communicating to our guests in the way that they would like to be communicated with. But also, if you check out our Instagram page or our website or anything out there, you can see that our tone is a lot different too than a lot of other companies, a lot of our competitors as well. So the text messages that we do end up sending our guests they're familiar. They're a little bit more personable than other companies that you might engage with. But that's who we are. It's authentic to us. How does this differ from our mobile app strategy? So, Pizza World. let's get into Pizza World. I get really excited talking about Pizza World, and actually the two kind of go hand in hand. So just recently in our app, we've retooled, redone everything, and we've got this new campaign rolling that's going to be a forever campaign called Pizza World. And the idea and behind Pizza World is that we've got so many different toppings on our line, and it's unlimited toppings. You can make, whatever your heart desires. But sometimes guests don't realize, you can make a barbecue chicken pizza and like, here's the ingredients to make it. Or you can still make a Hawaiian style pizza and we have those ingredients too. So instead of always having to redo our menu, which basically has core 6 hits pizzas on it, and we still have shops that have physical menu boards. So as you can imagine, for those shops that still have the physical menu boards, if we redo our pies, then we have to redo all those boards. Instead of always thinking about redoing our hits, it's like, well, how can we showcase other pies that people can create that can be ever changing, that could change off of seasonality, that could change because we've gotten consumer insights that we can add categories based off of cultural events or references, things of that nature. How can we do that? Thus became Pizza World. So if you go to our website or you go to our app, you'll enter Pizza World. You'll see about, I think we're at close to 35 pies, something of that nature right now, in really cool different categories. So we've got, our heavy hitters category, which are like pies that we know are going to be heavy hitters. They're not quite our hits, but like they're almost a hit. In that category, we have the Kalamata Harris pie, which is like a Greek pie. It's got a lot of Kalamata olives on it, and we're paying homage to our first female vice president of the United States. We've got another category called Rolling Stoned. And I mean, let's face it, stoners like pizza. So we gave a whole category dedicated to, those who participate in that extracurricular activity, where those pies are a little bit more like munchies forward. We've partnered with an organization called BLK. It's basically a subsidiary of Match.com, and it's for African Americans. So it's, like a meetup app that dedicated to African Americans. And so what's interesting is we have one of our hits called the White Pie. I put white in quotes because it's homage to Virgil Abloh and his Off-White brand. But we partnered with BLK during Black History Month to have a BLK pie, a black pie, which works very well with, wordplay and name play with our pie that we had existing. But then within Pizza World, we could do things like, track how many guests bought that pie and then be able to kick them a coupon or something to BLK. There's just like so many, we can run contests through Pizza World. There's just so many functionalities and capabilities that we can now run and host through our app. I'm very excited about it because we haven't even begun to scratch the tip of the iceberg yet. So I know one of the questions you had asked before was, which one is our bigger priority right now, the SMS journey or our mobile app journey? And I feel like this is a total cop out of an answer, but it's a 100% true. It's both for us right now because we're a very tech heavy company.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And I love like the personalization route that you're going to be able to start to implement with the whole customer journey. That's awesome. And so, I mean, you mentioned like your Instagram accounts, your social media, all those channels. And then we were talking about this on the prep call, but you guys really nail pop culture. So the trending moments, the memes, like I love it. I was on your Twitter earlier and last week, and I just love what you're doing. I mean, I like to push the boundaries, so your messaging definitely resonates with me. I mean, the Rolling Stone one was great. I also saw this Twitter image. It was basically of a Wheel of Fortune, and it said, "Where is my F blank pizza?" And then the caption was, "I'd like to buy a vowel." So I love the stuff that you're doing and pushing the boundaries on your social channels. And so to me, it seems like you guys really do have this core customer base, and like there's a persona in mind, but I'll let you answer this because I don't know if that's accurate to me, but who would you say is your core audience? And does that differ from your customer base from an ordering aspect versus your social media following?
Yes. So our core audience on our social media following, who we're going after right there, is Gen Z all day, every day. Um, so we talk about the future of pizza. I mean, they're the future of now, like if that makes any sense, but they're the future, but they're also it right now. So who we talk to on our social media resonates with Gen Z the most. And how that differs from our customer base, it differs greatly because I think our average customer is likely around the age of somewhere between 32, maybe like late 20s, early 30s to like mid to late 30s, somewhere in that bracket, which is totally not Gen Z at all. But at the same time, they interact with our social media pages as well. It's kind of like our age group. And so, it's funny still to us, even though we might not be speaking directly to me as, a consumer on social media. It's just like the irreverence of it, like the tongue and cheekiness of it. It still speaks to me and plays to someone like me who is our average customer.
Yeah, I can see that. That hits as well for me. And so just going off of that, outside of your branding being the provocative nature of it, you have such a charter around community, which we kind of touched upon earlier. And I know you coin your company as a purpose-driven brand. Can you kind of expand on that, like the culture around that and the community aspect?
Absolutely. So yeah, we're totally a purpose-driven brand. Everything that we do at the core of it is one about our people, taking care of, we call our employees, we're called a family. We call ourselves the fam. It's F&M. But taking care of our fam and then taking care of our guests. So getting on to the taking care of our fam side of things, it's just doing what's right for our teams and for our people. For example, recently we have offered time off for activism. We call it ATO, activism time off, in light of everything that was happening last summer. And so if, people wanted to go protest or, if it's whatever they wanted to go do in the name of activism, you've got 3 days off to go do that. Another thing would be, recently we have also rolled out like a Lyft program where we late night we give our employees rides home at a very discounted cost via Lyft. We've partnered with them to figure out, because especially with like the metro here is our public transportation subway. Metro closes at a certain hours, and for our shops that operate late night, it's not always the easiest for people to get home. So we're always looking at it from our fam standpoint of like what's the best thing that we can do for our people? How can we take care of our people, whether it's paid time off to get the vaccine when it's available to them and a ride to and from getting the vaccine, to paid time off for activism, or like small things like we were talking about, sending out surveys just about like what would you like to see differently, and just really listening to our family. On the guest facing side, it's again, we started off as one location on H Street in Washington, D.C., which is a very community oriented location. H Street. People who frequent H Street love H Street. They're all about their community. And so like we had to be in it. We had to be a part of it. And that's what we try to replicate in every location that we go to, finding like the local events to activate in, finding the local causes that make sense, to that community to support. Last summer we ran a campaign called Vote It Out, which we had boxes to go along with it, and it said vote blank out, and whatever you wanted to vote out, you'd write it in the box, and it made for really good photo ops. But along with that campaign, we partnered with 4 organizations during the summer where we ran larger fundraisers for them. But at the end of the day, no matter what, because we just wanted to do the right thing, and these are organizations that we believe in and made sense to really go all out on for our support in light of everything that was happening last summer. We made sure that they got baseline a $10,000 donation, period, because it's just the right thing to do. So that's what it means for us to be a mission-driven organization. One, taking care of your people internally, because without them, we can't function. And then 2, taking care of the guests and what's important, to our guests.
Yeah, and so when you talk about like the messaging and DC and H Street, you guys are open, you're specifically Southern, Eastern states. And so how does your messaging differ across core markets? And can you talk a little bit about kind of the background about the GoGo music and the Don't Mute DC, how that originated, and then how your messaging might be adopted towards different markets that you're in?
Absolutely. So, last year we spent the second half of the year opening in brand new markets for us, including Richmond, New Jersey, which we never been there before, and then a new location in Baltimore. Right now, the past two openings that we've had, well, we're having another one soon, but they're all more like local home based. And I can tell you now the difference there is, one having name and brand recognition versus not having name and brand recognition. So, we rely a lot more in those outer markets on, and I know we'll talk about this, but on, our third party apps to get our name out there for us. But when it comes to locations that we are opening here, just because we are headquartered here, we do know the nuances of everything that happens here. We're able to get a lot more granular, like at a local level. So, for example, the Don't Mute DC campaign that like DC started 2 years ago. Basically, there's this Metro PCS that sits on a corner. Located in DC, close to like the U Street area. And they play music. They just play loud music. They play go-go music. Go-go is a staple of Washington, D.C. If you've ever been here, if you've ever lived here for any amount of time, you'll hear go-go at some point. And the neighborhood around it is being gentrified. So the new residents that are moving in are like, oh no, we don't want this music playing anymore. And the neighborhood is like, please, this music has been here for years. Like, this is DC. This is the heart and soul of DC. So our team, and I want to talk about them too, and like the social media aspect of everything as well. Our team, being young, having their pulse on everything, like being here and in the area, said, you know what, this isn't right. And people were going out there and protesting and playing their music and just having a good time. And so our team quickly mobilized and went out there to provide pizzas to the people who were there and give them coupons just as like an act of goodwill and to show that, yeah, we're a local brand and we're in this with you. Like, we're here to stand with you in our communities as well. And here's some free pizza to do it, and come visit us at our location down the street. So, I shared with you, like when it comes to our social media and everything, I'm by far the youngest person, or I'm sorry, the oldest person in the room. And I'm not even like that old, but they're all like very young, very with it. It's a pretty cool dynamic that we have. We call it the writer's room, but this is where ideas like that are born. Like in our innovation meetings, in our writer's rooms, they're just like, oh, we see this going on, let's go do that. And it's like, well, if it makes sense and we have the money to go do it, let's go do it.
Yeah, and so going off the writer's room social media strategy, how much is some of the branding and new efforts around pizza names or what have you, how much of that is crowdsourced? You listen to your community a lot. How do you balance that, your internal and then like your community?
So we haven't crowdsourced pie names yet, but I can see that happening now that we've rolled out with Pizza World for sure. This last round of pie names was a pretty cool process because, we relied on our copywriter for some of the names, but we kicked it over to the writer's room. It's a group of about, I'd say 6 of us that get together every other day of the week. And so basically we had a picture of the pie, we had the builds of the pie, what all was on it, and it was go. Just figure out a name from there. So, we would draw inspiration from things like, oh, the basil pesto on this one kind of looks like Billie Eilish's hair color. So we have a pie called the Billy because of that. There was another one that was like very garlic and onion heavy. And so we named it the Buffy after Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Or like I said, the Kalamata Harris, or we have a pie that is, it's got a lot of blue cheese on it and it's bad and bluesy, just like cultural references, fun, again, tongue in cheek, but yeah, it's a creative process for sure. I'm in awe of this team. I mean, literally just seeing a picture and then seeing like the ingredients that are on the pie to then be able to come up with not only names, but then taglines, because each of our pie has like a little tagline that accompanies it as well. And so just like a little descriptor of either the pie or the origin of the name. Just like we have one pie called the CBR, and the tagline for the pie is um, chicken bacon ranch or classy bougie ratchet, you choose, so just like the creativity and like just the wit that this team has. Like I said, I'm in awe of them and they do an excellent job.
If you can name a pie, what would you name it? What would
I
be your
named a pie and I named it the tenderoni, because because it had a lot of pepperoni on it. It has a lot of mozzarella cheese, so it's like pink and white, almost kind of like a heart Valentine's Day situation. And I am an 80s baby and love all things 80s, including Bobby Brown. So to be able to name a pie after a Bobby Brown song, here for it. So there's a pie on the menu that I named called the tenderoni.
Love that. I'm here for it as well. So I want to get into some of the women aspects, questions, but first we touched upon the third-party apps, and I want to ask you about curbside delivery, around the pandemic. Have you guys implemented any sort of curbside strategy? And then my follow-up question will be, what are the pros and cons of working with third-party apps?
Sure. Yep. So we're testing curbside delivery at a couple of our locations now. But some of the roadblocks that we've run into: parking. A lot of our locations are either mall or they're CBD locations, so parking might become an issue. But in the locations where we do have dedicated parking spaces, there's one location in particular that I can think of. We have started testing that capability there and looking forward to rolling that out at more locations throughout the year. We've also we've got one location that's testing a pickup window, a street-facing pickup window. So, you don't have to come inside our shop to pick up. You can just roll by the pickup window, pedestrian style, and pick up your pie and go. So we're also testing that as well. Pros and cons about working with third parties. I mean, the cons, anybody who's on here in the restaurant industry already knows, like, the major con, and that's just the fees. The fees are astronomical. They do take a large cut of, your sales. So that's the major con, but the pros, in a lot of situations too, like I was talking about in newer markets, I would say outweigh the cons because, take for example, opening in New Jersey and like right outside of New York, New Jersey. So we've got people who love their pizza and who are into their pizza and like, they grew up eating this pizza, so they don't want to go anywhere else. And now we open up and we're the new player in town, and I've never heard of this location before. So I walk past it on the street and I might see it, but yeah, I'm not really interested because it's not what I grew up eating. However, if I'm at home scrolling on the app trying to order food, which everyone is probably doing a lot more these days than, they have been in the past, and the first thing that you see pop up is And Pizza, and we're in a little banner ad and we've got a promotion running, buy one, get one free at the time through the third party app. We see a direct correlation in our sales from that. We absolutely do. So whereas, you have to pay to play, more or less, with these third party delivery apps, and especially in new markets, it makes a lot of sense.
Have you tested, speak that in your markets, not to get off the next question I wanted to do, but ghost kitchens as tests for new markets?
So not necessarily in new markets. The way that we have kind of used our ghost kitchen during the course of the last year, there were a couple of locations that we had shut down simply because the business wasn't there anymore because of the pandemic. So a lot of our central business district locations that, relied heavily upon office daytime lunch traffic, we shut down those locations because the traffic wasn't there. But we did use a couple of those locations to fulfill what we called our hero pies. So at the beginning of the pandemic last year, we ran, it was twofold, this initiative. You could text into us daily to get a free pie if you showed us, your work ID if you worked in the medical field. And so, just show us your badge. We'll text you back a free code to get a free pie to use that day. As you could imagine, there was a lot of fraud that happened in that situation. So we quickly, well, not very quickly, we did it for a while, but we had to shift gears to where then we started partnering with local hospitals and we would do weekly drops. So it was, in the DC area, I can remember like George Washington Hospital, we did a drop of 50 pies for them every Monday for like 2 months. And then Georgetown Hospital was every Tuesday for 2 months. And so we used those closed kitchens to fulfill those pie orders out of there. So that was, we haven't forayed into the ghost kitchen world and like the actual sense of it, but we've used them to fulfill orders so that we weren't putting the stress on our other teams that were open that we needed to fulfill the orders of guests coming in.
That's incredible. That's a great way to use the ghost kitchens. I mean, that's incredible. I love what you guys are doing with that and what you were doing with that.
Thank you.
So jumping into March is Women's History Month. Yesterday was International Women's Day, and today is a live cast theme of women in marketing. So here for all three of those, it's kind of like a triple threat. What inspires you the most about being a female in your position?
What inspires me the most about being a female I love this question. And I'm going to answer it not only as being a female in my position, but being a Black female in my position. There are not a lot of people in the room that look like me. And so that's just, I was thinking about that earlier today. I was actually like texting my manager about that, like literally before getting on this call, that there's not a lot of people in this space that look like me. So the inspiration there is to change that, to have it so that I have a little boy, he's 8 months old. And I'm just thinking about like, well, when he gets my age, I don't want him to have to feel like that. Like there's not a lot of people in here that look like me. So like, what do I need to do to break down those barriers, to have more, women in the space, to have more Black women in the space, to have more Black men in the space, but particularly, I'm a Black woman, not a lot of people in the room that look like me, and I want to change that.
That's awesome. Oh, wow. I'm like getting so inspired just by hearing you talk about that. What advice would you give to the younger female generation in the workplace and in leadership roles? Like if you could give one piece of advice to them.
Stop using the word just. Like in your communications and when you talk, I just wanted to, there's so many times that I have to delete that because we just get into the habit of doing that all the time. Stop using the word just. Use your voice. Understand that sometimes people are going to see you, using your voice and sometimes assertively, and they might think certain things about you, but that's okay. It is what it is. Always be respectful, but use your voice. You have a platform to stand on, use it. You have a different perspective than other people in the room, share it, because there might be a lot of times because we all don't have the same perspective, you might see things one way. And then I raise my hand and I'm like, no, 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 you can't say that because of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, wow, I didn't even think about it like that. So share it. You always have to share your opinions, whether, you think that they might be accepted or not, it is what it is. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I write just all the time and I go back in my emails and I just delete like
Delete.
I totally agree with, I hate that word and I'm trying to remove it from my vocabulary.
And you don't see that from a lot of like with male emails that you get. It's always women, hey, just wanted to check it, delete it, take it out.
I know. It's like a filler word and I don't like it. So it's being removed from my vocabulary. I wanted to go into a little rapid fire round.
Let's go.
All right, you ready for it? All right, first, favorite pizza on the menu?
Oh, the Kalamata Harris, by far. Add mine.
Okay, I love it. Favorite drink with pizza?
Champagne.
Favorite sports team?
The Washington Wizards, they pay our bills. Go Wizards!
Were you paid to say that? I'm just
kidding.
No,
well, kind of.
What are you watching on Netflix right now?
Oh, I'm not watching anything on Netflix right now. I've got too much going on, but I know that at some point we will have to get back. My husband likes All American and that's like coming on. And so we'll get back into that.
Okay. Last concert you went to?
Um, it was at a Wizards game because after the game, they had someone perform, and I think it might have been Mace. I think it was Mace, and there was Cisco. Was it Drew Hill? I think it was like Drew Hill and Mace or something along those lines.
Love that. Love that. Um, Once the world becomes a little bit more normal, what would be the first place you travel to?
Oh, somewhere with the beach, somewhere out of the country with the beach, just
Okay.
far away, white sand, turquoise waters, out of here.
I'm already there mentally. Okay. Who was your female hero growing up and who did you look up to?
um, Female hero growing up, and who did I look up to? That's a great question. I mean, there's like the typical answer, and it's still true. It's my mom, because she single-handedly raised me, sent me to private schools. I never wanted for anything. Did every like danced, sang, pageants, sports, AAU, anything, and she did it all by herself. And I guess now I have even more of an appreciation. I appreciate it in the moment for sure, but now that I'm a mom and I'm not a single mom, I'm married, I'm tired. And I'm like, I don't know how you did this with a full-time job. And I mean, she had our family there to help out, but just like, I don't know how she did it. So shout out to my mother.
Yes, that's amazing. Um, okay, one of the biggest learnings for you, this is less a rapid fire question, but biggest learnings that came out of the pandemic. It can be personal and professional, one or the other, both.
Um, that's a great question. Something that I've had a hard time with, but I'm accepting it, is you know, with all of the injustices that were happening last year, I remember questioning a lot, like, why do people care right now? Because this stuff has been going on for years. And like, as African Americans, we see it all the time. But it I get it, because people were at home and people weren't able to go out and to like, have drinks and to just unplug and not see what's going on the television. So like, having a captive audience to get your point across, or to really make a change, it's not that, it was a learning for me, but just watching it happen and seeing it happen like so prolifically, I would say last year, just really, really, really stood out to me. And then just watching the businesses rally and behind it too, but also keeping an eye on these businesses to make sure that they're still talking about the same thing and that they weren't just capitalizing off of, the situation at the time. But that was something that really stood out to me during this time. And personally, the importance, not that I ever discounted the importance of family, but like, having a child during the pandemic and not having anyone be able to come visit him was really, really hard. Or just like not having family around, or being able to come in and to help out. So yeah, those are like the two things that stood out for me the most during the past year.
Yeah. We've got about 3 minutes left. I did want to ask you, what do you see as the future of dining?
Oh, great question. I think that dining will return, because people are missing that aspect of fellowship. People are missing getting out, but it'll be changed. For example, we went out to dinner last week and it was all contactless, meaning, we placed our order, we scanned the barcode on the QR code. QR codes have made a resurgence. We've scanned the QR code at our table. Then we placed our order through the app from the QR code, put in our credit card from there, paid, did everything. Of course, the servers brought the food up to us, but we even had to request things like silverware, because it was a Southeast Asian restaurant, so they gave us chopsticks. But if we wanted silverware or sauces, we had to request that. But what was cool about that is the convenience piece and behind it, because once we were finished with our meal, we could just get up and leave because we've already paid for everything. There's not that weird game that you're, playing with the server at the end where it's like, oh, we're ready for the bill. Then you have to wait for it. And then they put it down and then you got to put your card, all of that was eliminated. And also, there weren't as many interruptions, if you will, from the server as well, which just allowed us to be able to spend more time with one another. So I think that dining will come back, but there will be little nuances that change, and likely it'll be things like that that just make it more convenient for the guests.
That's a perfect ending. I'll let Ariel jump in, but I think, yeah, the future is frictionless, and convenience is essentially the new currency in this day and age. So I agree.
Oh, Ariel, you're on
On mute.
mute.
Thank you guys both for such an amazing session. Charae, I just have to ask you, how do you do it? You know, you said that about your mom, but I really think everyone in the audience is asking that to you. You do so many great things, and I loved everything that you said. I think we can do a whole session on the semantics of what words we should be saying and what we can do to make ourselves better leaders. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Brand Innovators. Thank you, Charae.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
So with that, I will bring our last and final